A2D radio. Man, so excited to talk to our next guest. I got his book the other day called Tackling Life, all right, by Kevin Reilly. And I ripped through this bad boy in one day. I finished this off. That's how compelling and excellent it was. And his life journey is unlike anybody we've had on the show thus far. So without further ado, we're going to welcome in former Eagles linebacker, motivational speaker, Villanova Wildcat, Salesianum Sally, the one and only Kevin Reilly. Kevin, welcome into the show, my friend. How are you?
Rob, good to be with you again. As we had shared some time together broadcasting for the Eagles. Really good to have you back and joining you.
My pleasure, Kevin. Yeah, our years were a lot of fun doing the post-game show, man. It's and you actually, it's funny. You write about it in your book. Pre-game shows are very sort of, you know what you're going to get. It's set up and it's just kind of, we're going to go to this guest and we're going to break down the linebackers and we're going to do that. Post-game, man, you get dropped into a blender, and depending on how the game goes, you never know what the heck is going to happen there.
Rob, a lot of times I thought we were Dr. Phil trying to walk them down off the bridge, you know. Some of those close games and the Eagles lost while they were trying to, get up to where they are today. Mm-hmm. And they really look like they're going to have a great season this year, barring injuries, of course.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you can never, it's crazy. They had all 22 starters start the Super Bowl last year. Like, what are the odds of that happening? I mean, it's almost borderline incredible. So, no, you're right. It's always the X factor. Your story, Kevin, and I mean this, your book was awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. And I tell everybody, if they can pick it up, Tackling Life by Kevin Reilly. John Reilly does an excellent job as well. But it is awesome, man. And it, how faith, family, friends, and fortitude, the 4 F's, have kept the linebacker in the game. First of all, great job, man. How long were people asking you and saying to you, man, you got to write a book. You got to write a book before you finally did it?
It was really funny. I'd never written a book. You mentioned I went to Villanova. Father Donahue, who's the president there, and I've become pretty good friends. But Father, he likes to bust your chops every once in a while. So I sent him my book, and I do broadcasting for him. I do the games. And the first year I was there, I ran into him up in the the boxes for the football game. He has a president's box. I'm in the press box, and he goes, "Mr. Reilly, so now you're an author." I said, "Yes, Father." And I said, "I want you to tell Father Higgins I want that C+ in English changed to an A." And he immediately said to me, "Well, you'll have to bring a spade and a shovel because you'll have to dig him up. He's buried in the front of Austin Hall."
Yeah, gallows humor will work for you, Kevin. That's for sure, man.
But, getting back to your original question, I put it off for a good 18 months. And the guy that kept after me was John Reilly, who is now writing his 4th book. He's a really good golfer, will someday be in the Delaware Hall of Fame. And he wrote a book about Porky Oliver, who a lot of people didn't know about because of the era he grew up in. And that book took off. But John kept pressing me to do the book. And I would try to do it, with a microphone, and that wasn't working. And I found out the best way to do it was for me to write. It was just about the right taste for thinking and stuff like that. So John and I set a man up that he would meet with me every 2 weeks, and I'd give him 3 chapters. And this was it. We got a lot of good input and a lot of good advice from people who had written books. I'm so fortunate to know some people like that. It really steered us in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I would meet with John, and I would have these 3 chapters typed up, and we would go over them. I can't tell you how many times I'd say, that reminds me of another thing. And I would just want to tell John about it. He goes, "That's got to be in the book."
Right.
I'll bet you there's 10 things that we found with having these little conversations with coffee, being able to, cerebrally slow it down. And the other thing was we really debated, which you are one of 1,000 people who have mentioned the way we go back and forth. We debated that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of series on TV take you back, then they bring you forward, take you back. And it seems to be a real game changer when you're reading a book. You can imagine this. I'm thinking about, I have the book, the printer's copy. Who do I send this to that's going to give me feedback?
Right.
And tell me the truth.
Yeah. Not just kiss your rear end and say it's the best thing I ever read. Right.
And we're thinking and thinking. I go, oh my God, my buddy Ray Didinger.
Of course.
He'll be able to tell me if I made any errors on the Eagles aspect of it, although we did our research.
Mm-hmm.
So I call Ray. You know what a great guy he is. And he's just
the best.
The NFL drafts in 4 weeks. I won't be able to touch it until 4 weeks. I said, Ray, I don't care. Mm-hmm. If you just read it and give me your honest feedback, and we've known each other. Ray and I have known each other since Villanova.
Right.
So 3 days later, I get a call from him, and he goes, I read your book. He said, I came home early the other night, and I thought I'd get started. And the next thing I know, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. He said, it's very compelling. And I said, well, tell me what I should have, what else I should have done. He said, well, you missed 2 stories that you told me that I think should be in the book. And he went on about those. So that led us to believe that we had something that, would be compelling. And I'm into, I just ordered, and after this order comes in, it'll be 10,000 books that we have out there.
Wow.
Now, I've given quite a few away to people who need to read this book to get motivated. But I've also sold probably about 9,000 copies, mostly after I speak, Rob, because when I tell my story, it's Monarch Notes version, and the rest of the story's in that book.
Right. So let's start with the story, Kev. Let's start. And by the way, the way you laid it out, each chapter you essentially go to back in the day to more present. It's a great way to kind of just keep you boom, 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 boom. I loved it. I love the style of the book, the way it was done. So let's start with this. Let's go back to the beginning. Grew up in Wilmington, Delaware. And you laid it out very well in the book, just that era, that time, 50s, 60s, what it was like back then. Sports crazed. You loved the Phillies, you loved hoops. You played everything growing up as a kid, including football, which eventually would be your ticket for everything. But growing up and playing there, I know what a big deal in particular it was for you to play at Salesianum, which is a powerhouse of a school. So let's kind of go back to those days. And was it just the idyllic, normal childhood?
I contend to this day, Rob, that growing up in the late 50s and 60s was the greatest time to be a kid. You went out in the morning after breakfast, you didn't come back till the lights went out or dinner. Mm-hmm. And I feel so bad for these kids today that are so, attentive to for that. Back in those days, it wasn't unusual while waiting for a ride to practice or something. I would go out in the backyard and pretend. I had a basketball court out there. You pretend that you're a Philadelphia Eagle, Philadelphia Philly. And, pretending is another way of dreaming. And, it gets back there maybe on your subconscious. And you think to yourself, well, maybe someday, maybe if I do this and do that. And it was one of those things you didn't really share with anybody, but it was there in the back of my head. And there was nothing more that I wanted to do than play for the Philadelphia Eagles. My dad would take me to the games in the 60s with my uncles and to sit in, University of Pennsylvania Stadium, Franklin Field, and watch these guys. It's just like maybe just someday. And you're not going to believe who my hero was, Ike Kelly. Per excellence. Anyway, one thing led to another. I played 3 sports in high school. I was captain of the basketball team and football team, but I had to make a decision, and the decision was to play football. I was fortunate enough at Villanova not to get injured badly, and I had a really great all-star game down at Miami, South game, and Miami took a liking to me, and I got drafted 7th by the Miami Dolphins. Lasted all the way down to the last cut. Joe Paterno, God bless him, made a phone call to Don Shula that knocked me out of the box with a player that had been cut from the Jets. And Shula was good to me. He came up to me that day. He got from behind that desk when he saw my chin drop to here because I was on all the special teams going into the first week of the season. And he came over, lifted up my chin, looked me in the eye, and he said, "Hey, you just didn't get cut by the Pottstown Firebirds." cut by the world champions. You'll
Yeah.
be playing somewhere, somehow in the next couple of weeks. And I end up with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, so let's dig into both of those. So that little motivation had to help you. And let's face it, you were coming into a tough spot, Kev. They were undefeated the year before. These are the Super Bowl champions. This is Don Shula. It's not like you were on some expansion team or the Frankfurt as Yellow Jackets, as he said. But here's the crazy part. So you get cut by the Dolphins, and at least you get a little encouragement out the door, but you're a little bit bummed out, and it's you're waiting for the phone to ring and you're waiting for your agent to reach out to you. Nothing's happening really. And your father, who had, an unbelievable influence in your life, your dad says, "Hey man, hop in the car, drive down 95, pop into an Eagles practice and ask him for a tryout." And your reaction is, "Dad, that's not the way this works. Like, would you give me a break? This isn't, grade school where I'm going to go ask the coach to go shoot jump shots." Like, talk us through that a little bit.
Well, he said it every morning to me for about 10 days. And I was having breakfast with him. He went out the door at 8 o'clock to open his liquor store. I don't know about you. I would just go up there. What do you got to lose?
Right.
So to piss him off, I went up. And I don't know how I'm going to get in the stadium, but I had some credentials from the Miami Dolphins. And the honest to God truth is this security guard was afraid not to let me through because he might get in trouble. And I sat in his stands all by myself, watched practice. And as soon as practice was over, Boyd Dowler was talking to Mike McCormick. And as soon as Boyd walked away from Mike, I hopped the fence. I ran up to McCormick. I scared the hell out of him because I tapped him on the shoulder. I know I was stuttering. I said, "Hey, Coach, Kevin Reilly, I just got cut by the Miami Dolphins, and I just wonder maybe, you give me a tryout. I could bring my own stuff up here. I got my own pizza, blah, blah." And I just felt like I failed. Like, "Hey, get this guy out of here!"
Right.
And he goes, "Hold on a second. What did you say?" And I slowed down. And I just got cut by Miami, and I was down there. Chula, blah, blah, blah. So he called over Walt Michaels, who was the linebacker coach, and our head scout at the time. And the head scout said, "Yeah, we had him on the board. We were thinking of taking him 8 or 9, the 8th or 9, round."
Right.
So to make a long story short, McCormick said, "Listen, bring your cleats up here tomorrow at the time, and these guys will try you out." I got to go back, and I go to my dad's liquor store. He said, "How'd you do?" And he's taking inventory.
Right.
And I think, boy, am I going to get the talk back of my life? I said, they asked me to come back up tomorrow. And he said, "Let me tell you something. If you do sign a contract, you make sure that agent doesn't get one nickel."
Yeah. Your dad gets the percentage. Yeah. I love that. But that's you, and that's your life story in a nutshell. Like, you got to take a shot. You can't be afraid of the odds. You got to be able to, kind of take a little gamble on yourself here a little bit. So did you know, Kev? So you show up the next day. Did you have a pretty good idea? Like, I did all right here. Or did you have no idea once you finished your workout?
Oh, no. I was one of the few guys that weightlifted in those days. They took me into the weightlifting room, and when I bent 350, their eyes came out of their sockets. Then I ran a 4.75 40. And you know what? I was really coached up well in Miami. I spent 10 weeks there under Bill Arnsparger. And if I got nothing else out of the Miami experience, that it was like a 10-week camp for me to become a very good NFL linebacker. Not saying anything negative about Villanova. We didn't have a coaching staff that could ramp you up to get ready for the NFL. There was no combine.
Right.
So they signed me that day.
Wow.
And I was on the taxi squad, if you remember that.
Which is the practice squad now, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I was on the taxi squad for 1 week, and Ben Hawkins broke his ankle. So whoever was behind him moved up, and they activated me the next week for special teams.
Jeez.
And this is like, something out of a movie.
You're on your couch, 3 weeks earlier, and now you're activated. I mean, it's crazy.
Now I'm activated, and 3 games into the season, I think it was 3, a guy by the name of John Sadowski, a Villanova grad, intercepts a pass while we're at Dallas, and he goes and pitch it to one of the other Eagles, and he pitches it to Billy Joe Dupree. and Walt Michaels slams his
headset
clipboard down, and he goes, "Reilly, get in there!" And so he's bringing Sadowski out so he can yell at him. Rob, I'm having an out-of-body experience. 4 weeks ago, I was sitting on the couch, and now there's Roger's callback coming back over center.
Unbelievable. That's unbelievable. All right. So not only, Kev, here's the thing. So you get activated. You're on the field. You're playing special teams. You're getting time at linebacker. The following year, you're the captain of the special teams. Like that is a meteoric rise, man. Like that is quick for you to get to that status that soon.
Yeah. And the other thing is I never played special teams.
Right.
In college or in high school. In high school, I was the punter, so I did play special teams, but I was just punting the ball.
Right.
And I really took to it. My athletic ability was really meant for special teams. Being fast, being strong, I could get by guards that were trying to block me. And that comes back to my experience with playing high school basketball, playing one-on-one. So I really cherished running down under punts. And I don't know why guys don't look up. Look, I used to try to time it that when this guy catches the ball, I'm going to hit him.
Right.
And I think I had 3 fumbles the first, year that I played there from hitting guys exactly when they got the ball. And then I look back at some of the guys I was playing against. We played an exhibition game, preseason game. We played a preseason game every year against the Steelers. And I knocked the ball out of this guy's hands at the punt returner, and his name was Lynn Swan.
Yeah,
he didn't play too many punt returns after that.
I was going to say I don't remember him returning punts. Yeah. So anyway, so 73, you make your mark. You play 7 games. 74, you're the special teams captain. So what happens? Why didn't you were cut in the heading into the 75 season? What happened there?
I think I can talk about this now, but we were going to go on strike in 74 and we didn't.
Right.
And I did not cross the picket line, and my father was yelling at me, "You're crazy. You don't have the stature." I just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yep.
And the day that I was getting ready to cross it, the strike broke. So I'm not telling any lies here. I would have crossed it if the strike didn't break, but the strike broke that day. And I didn't look like a scab, So anyway, I get into camp, and now there's an audition going on for player representative, and they vote for Tom Dempsey. Tom Dempsey was the player rep for the strike, and they continued. And the linebackers were campaigning for me to be the assistant, and I didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And they were having fun with it, blah, blah, blah. We need a defensive guy. So I'm the assistant. Well, Mr. Toast proved to the other owners that he had a strong hand with union people. He sent Dempsey away before the first game.
Wow.
I got hurt in one of the exhibition games and it was on IR, but you could come back at that time.
Yep.
And the 6th game I came back, the morning I went to work that day, I walk in and my locker's empty.
Ooh.
And I'm going like, what the heck's going on? Well, they have done this before, but I'm not a rookie. They usually hide your stuff, So I'm looking around for it. I figure these guys. And I used to get in there early because I drove in from Wilmington. I didn't want to get caught in traffic.
Yeah.
So it's me and 2 other guys and our equipment manager, Sweeney. And he comes up with my bag of personal belongings. I go, they got Rusty involved in it, Trusty Sweeney. He says, no, they told me you're gone. Mike Rizzo walks in, and he had heard on, I guess, WIP or wherever the sports station was. He said, they only got a 7th-round pick for you. And I said, that's about what I'm worth. Do you know, Jim Murray came down, said, New England wants to try you out and possibly sign you today, but you got to be at practice up there at 2 o'clock. Here's an airplane ticket that leaves Philly at 12.
Jeez.
I pack my stuff up. I go home. My dad drives me to the airport. I get out of the Boston airport. Steve Zabel, who got traded the year before that was a linebacker with us, picks me up at the airport. I get dressed for practice. The only guy that I know in the whole place is Steve Zabel. And I went out and stood for 2 hours in a real cold day in November in Chuck Fairbanks training camp, waiting to go one-on-one, or really, they had a center, a guard, a tackle, a tight end, a running back, and a fullback. And they tried me out running plays at me, about 7 plays. And these guys didn't want to be there, Rob.
Oh.
So at the end of it, I was exhausted and I was cold. I didn't have, sweatshirt on underneath.
Yeah.
But I didn't get knocked down. Nobody took me down. And my adrenaline was pumping. And when I came off the field, I saw Steve Zabel. He was peeking, watching the whole thing. And he said, they're going to sign you because you were the first guy that didn't get knocked down.
Wow.
Now, Russ Francis was tight end. The best tight end I ever played against. And
he was really good.
God was with me that day because he didn't get a hold of me and put me on the ground. So I go up, Hank signs me, and now I'm playing special teams for the Eagles and for the Patriots. And our first game is Monday Night Football. Guess where? Miami.
Oh, how about that for some irony, right?
I make the opening tackle on the opening kickoff, and guess who helped me up? Don Shula. Kevin, good to see you again.
It's crazy, man, but that's life. That's right. All right. So let's do this, Kev. So you're now with the Pats, 2 years with the Eagles. You're now with the Pats, and man, we haven't even scratched the surface of your life story. So we're going to get a quick one in here, and we're going to come back and continue with Kevin Reilly, former Eagles linebacker, now motivational speaker and author of Tackling Life. It is an absolute must read if you're an Eagles fan or if you're just a human being who's looking to be inspired in their life. So let's get a quickie in, Kev. We'll be right back. This is the Rob Ellis Show with Kevin Reilly, A2D Radio.
Hey, Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Rob Ellis along with Kevin Reilly, my good friend here on the Rob Ellis Show, A2D Radio Network. All right, Kev, so you have your season in New England. Now, walk me through this. Are you starting to notice an issue with your shoulder at that point, or did it come after that first year in New England?
It came after the first year.
Okay.
Well, I take that back. That's when we saw evidence of a tumor. I thought I had bursitis, and the Eagles training guys, Otho Davis, the doc, they thought I did, and they were giving me cortisone shots into my shoulder.
You literally could see better. You could see a bump, right? Correct? You could see
not
something.
That.
Okay.
This was like the end of the 74 season. I mean, the end of the 74 season, and I was noticing lifting. I was a little bit weak on this side.
Right.
So they were getting. I guess I probably had 2 cortisone shots in that. Now that's bad news because we didn't know it was a tumor. Nobody did, but cortisone was feeding the tumor. It was like giving the tumor a steroid.
Oof.
So getting ready to go to training camp in New England, and my dad says to me, "What's that little bump on your shoulder?" I'm sitting at the beach. Mm-hmm. I said, "I don't know. I think I pulled something there, lifting." So I'd get that taken a look at, and I didn't do it. And when I got to the New England training camp, I noticed that I had a hard time with the Russ Francis of the world. I could bench press 325, 350, no problem. And that's why I was able to keep these guys off my body, because I wasn't the biggest linebacker in the world. However, my left arm kept giving in, and I'm getting hooked. So they released me because, I'm a little beat up, and I thought, I'm going to put a year in of getting healthy. Now I have the experience. and I'll get in somebody's training camp next spring. I need to heal.
Right.
So now I go to get this thing taken a look at. Nobody likes what they're saying. I go to Temple Hospital, a guy by the name of Joe Torg, Dr. Joe Torg, one of the first, I think, ever sports doctors, was a orthopedic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at it. He's not happy with it. He thinks it could be cancer. I do a biopsy to take it out. I remember him. I'm coming out of anesthesia. He looks over and he said, "You're the luckiest Irishman in this world." He said, "That is not cancer. It's a benign soft tissue tumor called nodular fasciitis. And we'll go in and take it out first of the year. It's not a bother."
Okay.
So after the first of the year, they went in to take it out. They thought it was the size of a golf ball. It was the size of a tennis ball. And they didn't get all of it.
Uh-oh.
So we go in, it comes back faster and bigger. So we go back a couple months later to get it, and they go in, and this time it's even bigger than the tennis ball. And this is before MRI, so you don't know what you're going to get until you get into somebody.
Right.
And so we were hopeful that they got all the tumor, and then I could feel it coming back again. This time when I went to see Torg, he had two other doctors come in, and they took a look at me. And this is when he made the call to Sloan Kettering Hospital to Dr. Ralph Marco, the best orthopedic cancer surgeon in the world.
Yeah, a guy who played a giant role in your life. Yeah, later on.
I got an appointment with him, and the rest is I went up there and I sat 2.5 hours in his waiting room, waiting to get seen. And all I wanted to do, here's my mindset: get this thing out of here so I can get to somebody's training camp and get 2 more years in.
Right.
So they put me in his office because I'm complaining. He had three little areas where he was doing one door and out the other to see patients. And he was so popular that the place was packed. So he walks in, all 5'7" of him, walks in, shakes my hand. He had the bedside manner of that wall, but I did get along well with him.
Right.
And he takes my x-rays, and I thought it was so unprofessional. He puts them up to the sunlight coming in from his window. Puts them up, takes a look at the diagnosis and says, "Son, you do not have nodular fasciitis. This is a misdiagnosis. You have a desmoid tumor, and I'll be lucky if I can save your arm." Hello? My knees buckled, Rob. "What did you say?" He says, "Yeah, I'll be lucky." He said, "That thing has probably got a hold of your clavicle, blah, 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 blah. Here's what I'm going to try first. I'm going to do this Lingberg off procedure, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to take your clavicle out because I know it's surrounded by this tumor. If we don't get all of this tumor, it will come back, and then I'll have to remove your arm. But I think I can save your arm."
Wow.
"How many of these operations have you done?" He said, "Over 100. I said, "How many failures have you had?" "About 3. Whew.
So he said basically it's only come back 3 times. So you feel like your odds are pretty good here, that you'll be able to get that cleaned up. And your football career might be in jeopardy, but at least you're going to have your arm. I mean, worst case scenario, right?
Well, I got to tell you, me and my wife went out, and I had to go to a bar as quick as I could. I needed a beer.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe this news.
Yeah.
And then while waiting for the operation, the pain started to come in. The Lindbergh takeoff procedure did not work. The tumor came back, and that's when he said, "I'm going to have to do a 4-quarter operation." And we'd already talked about that as a last resort. And that's when they removed my left arm, my left shoulder, and 4 ribs. Thank God for him, they got it all. And that is when I had my biggest challenge in life, laying in the hospital room out of intensive care. I was in intensive care for 2 days. I had the last rites read to me. There was a 30% chance I would not survive the event. God. And just thank God I was numbed up because it wasn't really bothering me that much. So I'm in my hospital room. I got this great big bandage on my side, and I have no idea how much is there and how much isn't. And I'm starting to think about, I'm lucid enough, I'm starting to think about, will I ever work again? Right. Every time I look up at my 3 kids, 2, 1, and 0, I would start to tear up. How will I be a dad? Will I work again? Did he get all the tumor? All these things. And all of a sudden, this guy appears from nowhere at my door, knocks on it, walks in. You must have the wrong room. But he had all the credentials. He said, no, I'm in the right place. He said, my name is Frank, and I'm a volunteer here. And I could see, oh, my God, he's missing his left arm. And I'm here to counsel you on now that you have one arm. Nice guy. Brought me this Alaskan knife. You'll use it to cut your, all these little tips he gave me. And he said, what are you going to do for exercise? I said, well, I haven't talked about it or think about it, but I said, you know, I'd like to be able to jog because I run some 5Ks. Oh, he said, you won't be able to do that. He said, you can't be jogging because you got 42 pounds, 22 pounds on this side, it's not on that side. You'll have back injuries and disc injuries in a matter of months. Oh, I didn't think about that.
Wow.
What else can you do? I said, I just joined the DuPont Country Club. Will I still be able to golf? He said, look, that game's harder than 100 with two arms. So I want to be out there trying to hit the ball around with you again. And knowing you as a linebacker, you'd be at risk of tearing your rotor up. You only go left by trying to kill the ball.
Jeez.
So then he says to me, well, what are you going to do for a living? You think the company will have you back? I said, I don't know. He said, let's suppose that they will. I said, okay. He said, what do you got to wear to work? I said, I got to wear a suit and tie and shoes just like you have on those wingtips. He said, you don't have wingtips like this. I said, yes, I do have wingtips like that. I said, I have them exactly like that. He said, not like this. He said, here, give me your hand. And he takes my hand and he said, you feel this little flap? And I go, yeah, where'd that come from? He said, pull up on it. And when I pulled up on it, it was a Velcro flap.
Right.
He had pre-tied shoes. He said, if you're going to have to wear dress shoes like this, you're going to have to get the Velcro flap. I said, really? He said, yeah, you'll never be able to tie your shoes again. It can't be done. Then he asked me to pull on his tie. And when I pulled on his tie, Rob, it was one of those clip-ons that I had when I went to grade school.
Yeah, grade school, yeah.
And, you know, that's because my mother wouldn't take time to tie my tie. And the tie came off of my hand, and I was really glad I didn't have to pull his finger.
Right.
But when I pulled on his tie, it came off in my hand, and he said, now, if you're going to have to wear a tie every day, he said, you're going to have to wear it, one of these clip-on ties. And if you go down to 20th and Madison Avenue and use my name, they'll give you a 20% discount on the clip-on ties.
Oh, my God.
I said, why would I have to wear a clip-on tie?
Yeah.
He said, you'll never be able to tie your tie again. It can't be done one-handed. I've been trying for 30 years. So when he left, I thought, oh, my goodness. You know, buttons and keyboards and zippers. Oh, my.
Yeah.
I'm in for it. Will I ever be able to drive a car again? I'm going through all.
So he's trying to help you, Kev, but what he did was tell you everything you couldn't do, basically, right?
He was trying to help me.
Yeah.
But wherever he is, thank you, because he set me off in the right direction.
Yeah.
The head nurse comes in, who I really had a great relationship with, and she said, do you not hear the phone ringing? And I didn't. I said, I'm in another world.
Yeah.
I said, this guy just upset me so bad. I know he meant well.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I'm thinking about all the things. I'll probably never be able to go to work. I'm like, I'll probably be on permanent disability the rest of my life. Blah, 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 blah. She said, pick up that phone. Why? She said, pick up that phone call. I pick up the phone. Rocky Blyer on the other end. Now, if you don't know Rocky Blyer's story, I'll give it to you in a nutshell. Went to Vietnam, left the Steelers training camp, did his duty, not in the National Guard, in real life in Vietnam. Last 60 days over there, he gets caught with in an ambush and gets his knee and foot blown up with a hand grenade. Mm-hmm. He refuses to have them allow them to fuse his leg at the knee until he gets back to Pittsburgh, where the owner of the team has the best two specialist orthopedic surgeons to take a look at him. They take a look at him, and they come back to the owner, and they said, this guy is special. We'd like to use him as a guinea pig to see if we can get him back in uniform, but it's going to take 2 years and 2 operations and a lot of PT. But this is the kind of guy that will go 100%. So, owner calls him in and says, I'll put you on the roster for 2 years, Rock. Now, the owner also went to Notre Dame.
That helped. Yeah.
That helped. So he was going to do everything he can. He said, Rocky, you come back in 2 years, you go to training camp. If you make the team, great. And if you don't, we all go home and we tried our best. Well, I tell everybody, not only did the guy make the team, he's got 4 Super Bowl rings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he was the leading yard getter because he caught the ball so well out of the backfield.
Yeah.
So here was a guy that we knew each other. He went to Notre Dame, I went to Villanova. We had guys in common that we knew, and we played them every year. And he'd visit me, and I'd visit him when we were in Pittsburgh. But he wasn't my best friend or anything. But through Dick LeBeau, our special teams coach, who became our defensive coordinator, he told Rocky about me, and this is where this guy was paying it forward to me.
That's awesome.
And I can't go through the whole thing, but at the very end of the thing, he says, has anybody told you about what you can't do? Any of the PT guys? I said, no, but funny you should ask. This really well-meaning guy came in today, and he depressed the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And Rocky listened. And at the very end, he said to me, an attitude I'll never be able to duplicate, but he said, he like came through the phone. You must promise me something. You must promise me you won't quit on anything unless you try it a dozen times. I go, right. I said, I think this guy's a little more of an expert as an amputee than you or I. He's been with Aaron North for years. Rocky snapped right back at me. Hey, Reilly, let me tell you something. Experts built the Titanic and amateurs built the Ark. Experts can be wrong.
That's a great line, by the way. It's a great line.
I promised him I wouldn't put on anything and try it a dozen times. It took me 15, 20 times to figure out to use my mouth to do this.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you just did it in 5 seconds, by the way. You just tied your tie in 5 seconds. Yeah.
And I've run in 5 half marathons, a Marine Corps marathon. I've broke 90 in golf on 2 occasions. I would never have taken that next step if it wasn't for Rocky Bleier. And by the way, he followed up. Mm-hmm. And we're great friends today because of it.
Yeah.
So he also gave me this little poem that I'll share with you. He said, instead of stepping back and counting to 10, because you're going to fail thousands of times, he said, this little poem helped me, and I think it'll help you because you're an A1 personality too. And the poem goes like this. If you think you're beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You got to be sure of yourself before you go win the prize. If you think you'll lose, you're lost. For in this world we find success begins where the fellows will. It's all in the state of mind. Remember, life's battles don't always go to the biggest, fastest, or smartest man. But sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And I have followed that philosophy, and I can't tell you how many times I use that. Try again, try again, again.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And man, thank God for Rocky Bleier. I'll tell you what. And I know that's why a lot of the motivational speaking that you do, Kev, is to just try to help folks who are in. I know you do a lot of work with Walter Reed, which we'll get into in a second, but a lot of the work that you do is to try to pay it forward, just like Rocky did. So let's you get out of the hospital. You're trying to reacclimate into the real world. Football obviously is not an option at this point, but you're just looking to be a productive dad, a productive businessman, the whole nine. How long does it take? Like, you have great motivational stuff from Rocky, but let's face it, any human being, this is a traumatic event that you went through. How long did it take you to sort of get back to being yourself again?
Well, I was, my A1 personality. This happened. I got operated on the last 2 weeks in October. I was bored to tears at home. And I made the decision to go back to work on January 1st. And I was physically in good shape, a little on the heavy side, but I was eating a lot, not exercising at that time. And I had a territory that had not been worked in 3 good months, and I ended up being salesman of the first, month of the year. And everybody's patting you on the back. And I hadn't mentally had the time to come back. I came back way too soon. Mm-hmm. And in February that year, I fell into a major depression and was forced to go to work every day because I had signed up on back. Mm-hmm. And that lasted till April. I finally got some therapy help, and I was suffering from the same thing that guys suffer from, in battle. In
PTSD, yeah.
PTSD, and the doctor said, yeah, clinical PTSD.
Yeah.
And I didn't even know what it was at the time. And he said, you've been through, your body's been through, and it's telling your mind you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
And so with a little bit of therapy work, and I didn't want to go to a therapist. I didn't want that on my resume, but you do things, and I'm thinking, why was I thinking that way? The macho linebacker going to therapy. Hey, guess what? We all need therapy at some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no question. All right, so let's get a quickie in here, Ralph. We'll get our last time out, and then I want to kind of walk through, Kev, the journey here with the family. You had some ups and downs there, as well as a businessman, as a motivational speaker, everything that your broadcasting world, the whole nine, and kind of where you are today. We'll do that. Let's get a quick timeout in here. He is Kevin Reilly. You are watching the Rob Ellis Show on the A2D radio network. Right back.
Hey, Birds fans, the NFL schedule has arrived and Philly Sports Trips has all the details now. Visit the site phillysportstrips.com. This is sure to be an epic season. Be sure to go there now to make sure that you don't get shut out. Join us in Tampa, LA, Seattle, or when we get revenge in Kansas City. Don't want to fly? No problem. Gather up your crew and hop aboard one of our signature boisterous bus trips to DC or New York. Sign up now and make sure to mention A2D. Don't miss out on the best Philly fan experience anywhere. Philly Sports Trip customers always stay at the best hotels and meet NFL legends. Book today.
Ninth episode of the Rob Ellis Show, A2D Radio. We are joined by former Eagle linebacker Kevin Reilly. All right, Kevin, so here's the great news, right? So first off, the cancer doesn't return. I mean, number one, there was still a chance that could come back. So that, first and foremost, thank God, huge. And then you start to sort of reacclimate, therapy, just time, that kind of thing. And, you start to crush it as a salesman at Xerox, and, the kids are growing, everything's good. And you're also mixing a little bit of broadcasting here and there while you're doing your thing, some high school stuff, as well as Eagles stuff and other things. But as time goes on, and we're fast forwarding now a good amount of time, 16, 17 years, you're kind of thrown, and this is, you detail this very well in the book. You're thrown because your wife wants a divorce, and that's something you didn't even see coming on the horizon. And that was yet another setback that kind of had you reeling a little bit. Just walk us through those years.
That was, my wife was a very talented banjo player. It was in Miss America pageant, and she won the talent competition. We had 3 kids, and she got an invitation to go down to Disney World and work with a guy by the name of Mickey Finn, who had his own TV show at one time out in California, very successful piano player. Mm-hmm. And it was supposed to be for 3 weeks. It'd go. I wouldn't want anybody holding me back from an NFL tryout.
Right.
And she went down, and they were a big hit. And I'll just cut to the chase. She was down there probably 3/4 of that year. And here, I thought that the guy that she was playing with, he was taking care of her. I mean, he was taking care of her better than I knew. And she came home one time and said she wanted a divorce. Didn't tell me why. Just said it was her career she wanted to pursue. I was just flabbergasted. I mean, this is the second big shock of my life after hearing Marco say, I could lose your arm. And the next thing I know, everybody suspected except me. And I feel like a dope. I busted so well. You feel really taken. Mm-hmm. And it took me a while to get over that. I had some really good people at work that took care of me. Believe it or not, I was friends with Joe Biden at that time. We were doing a speaking engagement my first 4 days after she left. And my father drove me down to the event. There were 800 people there. He was one of the speakers. And he pulled me aside after he found out what was happening. And he grabbed me here and he said, my guy, Tom Lewis, had the same thing happen to him. He's with me tonight. And I knew Tom. He's going to be at your house at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and he's going to walk you through the process.
Wow.
And he said, you better answer the door. And I did. Oh, my God, what a godsend. I spent 2 hours with me telling me what I had to do, from a law standpoint, from a lawyer standpoint, what I had to do to get over this mentally and, to take it easy. Oh, what a godsend. I mean, I've been sent angels in life, really, Rob.
Right.
And Joe and I disagree on a lot of issues. But that's one thing I'll never forget he did for me.
Yeah. No, that's big time. I know also along the way, Kevin, you discovered like, you know what? Probably drinking a little bit too much here. And let's put that aside too. And that was that part of the whole that same time frame as well?
Yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I'm 8+ years out now, and I don't even crave another drink. And Rob, it was funny because I never thought of myself in that arena. I never drank until after 5 o'clock.
Right.
I wouldn't even have a cocktail during my 30 years of Xerox with a customer because I wanted to be at my best.
Right.
But it was my way of winding down and looking back. I think I developed this comfort thing in my head from double sessions in the pros.
Right.
The last 2 years that I played in the pros, they welcomed you to go down and drink a couple beers after the second practice. Well, here you are in 100-degree heat in Miami, sweating 2.5-hour practice in the morning, 2.5-hour practice in the afternoon, beating up on each other, and the rookies got beat up pretty well. And then all of a sudden, when you're in an air-conditioned bar with cold beer and some pretzels and music playing, and it becomes addictive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I got a great letter from one of my kids that basically said, "You got a problem, and it's not a big problem." And the funny thing is, I went to my first AA meeting, and there were 3 guys that talked at that meeting. And the first guy got up and he was shaking, and he said, looked at his watch, and he said, "In another hour," he said, "I'll be 24 hours without a drink."
Wow.
And I looked around the room and I went like, "Hey, I need to go to single A."
It's a little deeper than where I'm at. Yeah.
The next guy gets up and they give him his 1-year pin, and he said, "I cannot believe I've made it a year without drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels before 10 a.m. And that's when I was sure I was in the wrong place. I got to get out of here. But no, you could throw a blanket over it. We all had a problem, and the only way out was to get together. And I've helped some other people with it. And, God's been good to me that way. Every time I run into a major situation, there is an answer, Rob, but you got to find it.
Yep. You got to be willing. You got to be willing to address the issue as well. So along the way, Kev, great success as a salesperson. You're doing your broadcasting, everything from, Villanova games, the Eagles pre and post game to you're doing Salesianum games, which I know is near and dear to your heart as well, along the way. But I found this story great. So you're down the shore and your sisters I think it's your sisters, correct me if I'm wrong, are having lunch. And they say, "Kev, why don't you just stop over, grab a bite with us?" And unbeknownst to you, they had a friend with them, correct?
Right.
So you're a single man at this point. You go over to meet your sisters at the beach, and then you meet your future wife. Give us a little bit about that.
Well, I actually had, this is funny because here I am single. I have a date that night down there, but I left in the morning because my renters had left out of the house. So I said, I'll get down and roll.
Clean it up a
I
little
had
bit.
nothing to do in the afternoon. I said, I'm going to go down the beach. I know my sisters are here, all 3 of them, and I'll hang out with them for a while. Nice. So I get down, and one of my sisters has her best friend down, and that friend had her next door neighbor down, whose name was Paul. Mm-hmm. And so I get introduced to him, no sparks fly or anything like there, but this is when I got the opportunity to do the Eagles preseason games on TV.
Yeah.
Hugh Douglas.
And
so ABC is doing it, and this woman works in the marketing department for 6 ABC. She said, "Oh, I recognize your name. You're going to be doing the Eagles preseason." I said, "Yes." Well, we had a lot to talk about after.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I must have sparked some interest in her, and my sisters asked me where I was going out that night for dinner because I had a dinner date, and I told them which restaurant. Paula and her friend made sure they went to the restaurant so they could check out my date.
Oh my God. Okay.
So anyway, I called her about 3 weeks later. We had exchanged phone numbers, and just asked her if she would go to lunch. Rob, I'll tell you, I kissed a lot of frogs in that 10-year period.
Yeah.
And lunch is the easiest escape.
Right. Yeah. You're not as
And
committed as a dinner or anything like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we had a really good lunch, and I wanted to see her again, and that began the process of dating her for a year. And it's hard to believe we've been married 11 and a half years now.
Oh, beautiful, man. That's great. That's great. All right. So that I wanted to make sure we there was a happy ending on the love front. So that's great. But all right. So let's go back for a minute. Give me the story of how you ended up at Walter Reed, because, let's face it, our men and women in combat, can go through some really, really unbelievably trying times, and you can certainly relate. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, our congressman at the time, that's now United States Senator Tom Parker, he was actually our governor at that, was a veteran, and he said, would you consider going down to Walter Reed? This is during the height of the Afghanistan situation.
And you had really fine-tuned your motivational speaking at that point as well, right?
But I had never spoken to a bunch of amputees. I was always one-on-one with somebody.
Right.
Somebody lost an arm in cancer. I'd go over to AI DuPont Hospital over here. A little kid lost an arm or a leg due to an injury. So I went down with John Reilly, and that's why he wrote that chapter. I said, you watch this. You write the chapter.
Yeah.
So I get down, and there's about 12 people in PT. Rob, stupid me, there's 2 women. I didn't expect to see any women. I'm going, my goodness, these IEDs, they're not particular who they blow up.
Yep.
10 of the 12 amputees were leg amputees because they're sitting in these Jeeps when they get blown up. But there were 2 arm amputees. And John noticed from the very first 30 seconds, of course, I welcomed them all to the club. That's what I do. Welcome to the club. Right. I want them to know they're not alone.
Yeah.
Because you get that. So I have this, talk with them, and they were super attentive. And John says to me, watching it, he said, you had them from the first 30 seconds. Well, looking back, there were people there that had lost their leg 4 weeks ago and 8 months ago. And I was the expert. I was 30 some years out.
Right.
And at the very end of it, John said, they were really captivated. So one of the things that happened at the very end was one of the guys missing an arm said, can we get a picture together? And I said, yeah, everybody get in here. We'll get a picture. So we all get in there, and I've got the pictures in my book, and take the picture. And so when it's over, the captain, who is a doctor, says to me, hey, thanks for coming today. I said, I'd love to come back. He said, you can't come back unless you pass our peer visitor training. I said, what's that? He said, it's 8 hours of training on a Saturday. You have to sacrifice, and it's taught by our peer visitors that are down here. And what that is, peer visitor, is somebody who is an amputee that comes and gives back and listens to a soldier, man or a woman, and, becomes your confidant. And the reason there's 8 hours needed is you will get information from the amputee that he won't give the doctors, families, or his wife.
You kind of like your sponsee. It's kind of like a sponsee, maybe in AA. Yeah.
Yeah, and absolutely. That's exactly what it is. And he said, one of the things that they really harped on, we had 2 hours of watching for suicidal tendencies and being able to report them. And you may not know this, but Marines have a hard time reporting them because that will end their career. So there was a big discussion about that. But that's another story for another day. So I said, what did I do wrong today in this speech? He said, nothing. He said, but that picture you took, I'm going to send it to I'm going to send it to you. Call me when you get it. So I get it one day, 8 by 10. I called up the doc. I said, what am I looking for here? He said, there's 3 guys in that picture that are trying to escape. Oh, yeah. I didn't notice that. I just thought they were, going back to their rooms. He said, there's no mirrors in that area. They haven't seen themselves without an arm. They haven't seen themselves without a leg. Those 3 guys weren't ready, and you didn't know that. No fault of your own.
Gotcha.
Will you come down and take the training?
Okay.
And I did. It was unbelievable training.
Mm-hmm.
I left there. I went right back to John Reilly and told him what a great day it was and how now I was prepared to talk to these people.
Wow, that's incredible. That is flat out incredible. So, man, Kev, what a story. And today still doing, I know you do Villanova games along with Ryan Fanning, do a great job on those. Your alma mater. You're still doing your motivational speaking. You have the book out. Tell folks where they can get the book, Kev, too, just so everybody knows it. Tackling
I
Life.
think you can get it on Amazon. You just go there and ask for Tackling Life. And if you want it personalized, send it to my email address.
I have it actually, Kev. So people can send it to Molly, MOLLIE at Kevin Reilly, REILLY
No,
52.
don't use that one.
Okay.
Here's the one I don't use.
All right.
Kevin Reilly, REILLY 4652 at gmail.com. Tell me who you want it made out to.
Okay.
And I'll make it out to them. One of the things I find out after I talk and I'm signing books, since the pandemic, Rob, I would say it went from 1 to 10. If somebody asked me to make it out for an individual between 18 and 30 who's struggling.
Wow.
They'll come up and say, no, make it out to me. Make it out to Mike. Make it out to Sarah. She's having a tough time right now. Since the pandemic is over and now I'm speaking again, it happens 3 out of 10 times. A lot of people out there struggling. And I think my book can help some people get back on track because it gives you hope.
Yep.
And we all need it.
Well, and the biggest thing too, that there's so many takeaways from the book, but also just, I mean, you're running 5Ks. Like you're successful in your career. You're totally self-sufficient. Like we saw you earlier with tying your tie. Like how long did it take you, Kev, before you were fully comfortable with yourself? And I don't know that you're ever over something like that, but before you were just kind of like, hey, I'm on the right path. How long did it take you, would you say?
That's a great question. I think when I really started to move up the ladder doing the motivational talks and the feedback I got, and then the notes that I would get back, I mean, you can't appreciate until you're in this position what one good statement that somebody can make, yet alone to let somebody know that you care. I probably send out 3, I call them care packages a month. I constantly get I send them my book, I send them a letter, I send them some quotes, and I send them a t-shirt, and the t-shirt says Reilly Warriors on the front, and on the back it says, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Yep.
And, somewhere along the line, I'll tell them, you got to gut up. Go ahead and grieve. Go ahead and, PTSD, get some therapy. At some point, you got to gut up. But when you do, you're going to find out that there's still beauty out there in your life. If we say that we're not going to ever have a happy day again, it's not a good state of mind. Yeah. And I guarantee these people, they will have a good day again. They just have to, and they're not alone.
Yeah. Yep. Well said. Well said. Kev, man, thank you. What a story. What an unbelievable life journey. You and I have had a lot of fun broadcasting together. And I love that you were able to share your story with our audience here. This was great. Kevin, we really do appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Well, let's come back and do another one sometime later.
But you know what? Actually, before I get you out of here, give me your thoughts, man. I mean, well, let's do this. I want to go back 5 years ago. What it meant to you as a former Eagle, as a kid who grew up in Wilmington, a diehard Eagles fan, to watch them slay the Patriots and actually win the whole darn thing that a lot of us thought we might ever see in our lifetime. What did that mean to you, as a guy who played and rooted for this team his whole life?
It meant a lot to me. I had my whole family, 11 grandkids, all at the house that day. It was a celebration, but the people I felt most happy for were the fans who stood by us from Franklin Field. Eagle fans are so loyal. They're the best fans in the world. I mean, New England's okay. They're pretty good. Miami, if it's too hot, we don't go to the game. I mean, yeah, it was, and looking at this year's team, Rob, I'm almost afraid. I don't see a weak spot. I'm looking at Nakobe Dean coming in and really filling in. And if I could play middle linebacker with the defensive line he's going to have. He's going to be scraping and tackling. This kid they got, the running back, DeAndre Swift, he's got low mileage. He's got low mileage going back to college.
Yep.
He's a first-round draft pick. And then they got Penny on top of that. He said Gainwell's not very good.
Yeah.
They are loaded. But the biggest thing is the guy at the top, Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
Real quickly, I'll tell you, the first game, big game I ever saw in person, I played on the field, was an Alabama game when he was a sophomore. And I looked at him in the binoculars, and I thought he looks like a linebacker. Oh, my God, I couldn't believe it. And I think he had 3 throwing touchdowns, 2 running touchdowns. They take him out in the third quarter, and I'm saying that guy's going to sit on the bench and just, ham it up. He walks over, congratulates every lineman, the offensive tight end, the wide receivers, and last but not least, the running backs. Then he walks over to the head coach, who has a conversation with him and hands him a pair of earphones to go over. And he's going over, and I find out later he was to coach up the 3rd and 4th string quarterbacks who might get in the game. Now, anybody else would be sitting on the bench going, hey. And I'm thinking, this guy's a sophomore. Nobody respects a sophomore like that. I was a believer that day, and I can't tell you how many arguments I had leading up to his progression to last year. Now I got people telling me, hey, you were right. But he is the straw that stirs the drink.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, Kevin, I have never seen a guy that age, that mature, and older guys like Kelsey quoting him, wanting to follow him. I mean, when does that ever happen? I've never seen it. He is
Rob, do you think Kelsey would have come back if Jalen wasn't there?
No.
Not even last year.
No shot. He would have been, you're right. He would have gone 2 years ago. 100%. I don't know that Brandon Graham would have come. I don't know if any of these, I mean, he is the ultimate. Look, props to Howie and Jeffrey for taking him in the second round, and props to him for working his tail off to get to where he is. And Kev, here's the thing, it doesn't happen until 3rd, 4th, 5th year where everything really starts to slow down for these guys. That jump that he took from the previous season last year was unbelievable.
You're right. Richie Gannon, who I was agent for a short 6 months.
Oh, is that right?
Richie Gannon and I are pretty good friends, and he told me he didn't see the whole field till his 7th year in the league. He said it's like reading in first grade. You read a word, you read a phrase, you read a sentence, and then off you go when reading a paragraph. They teach you there's the 1/3 you read as a rookie.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years you read just half of it, and you have a safety valve. But he said he could see and I think you're absolutely right. Wait till Jalen sees the whole field.
Oof.
With the weapons he had.
Incredible. All right, I got to ask you our A2D agree to disagree question of the day, Kev. Got to hit it with you, man. Will the Eagles win the Super Bowl? The Eagles will win the Super Bowl. Agree or disagree?
I agree. I agree because the biggest problem they did in the last Super Bowl is they made mistakes against a team you can't make mistakes on.
Yep.
And I think they'll cut those mistakes down. Hey, Siriani has surprised the heck out of me. Yep. There's something to be said with going back to basics, even when you only have 90-minute practices, to get guys started with the right foundation.
Yep. Yeah.
I got to give them props.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. Kevin, listen, thank you for sharing the story, man. And we appreciate it. And I would love to have you back on again. We'll just kind of break down what's happening with the birds and everything else in life. But
all right, buddy.
I love the book. Highly motivational. I ripped it all off within about 2 hours, Kev. So I was Sunday morning. I was in. I read the first chapter and I was hooked. So I appreciate you giving us a couple minutes, man. Continued success with the grandkids and your beautiful wife, and best of luck to you, man.
Thank you, Rob. Good seeing you. Let's talk again.
Appreciate it. That's Kevin Reilly, former Eagles linebacker, motivational speaker. That was fun. All right, let's hit a couple things here. We just sort of covered the Eagles about 2 weeks out for training camp. And Kevin's right. I don't know how you're not excited about this team. I don't know how you don't look at this. And it's weird. You almost want to say to yourself, all right, calm down a little bit. It looks a little bit too good. And when it looks too good, bad things tend to happen. But certainly right now on paper, man, the Eagles look loaded for bear. That's for sure. Let's hit a couple other things. Philly's at the halfway mark now, even though it's not really halfway, but it's the All-Star break. I feel better, I think, than most people. They're 48-41. I know people didn't love the way the last 2 games went against Miami, but I look at an underachieving Trey Turner. I look at Schwarber hitting 185, striking out a ton, being a butcher in left field. I look at Aaron Nola being all over the place. I look at Zach Wheeler not pitching really like Zach Wheeler. There's a lot of things for this team that I think they will be better at in the second half. There are too many good players right now who maybe aren't playing up to their potential. And I think that part of it is encouraging. I think they will add a corner outfielder, which will get Schwarber out of the field, which is going to help. I think Harper will go to first base. There'll be some growing pains, but I think when you're a great athlete and a great baseball player like he is, you'll get adapted to this thing, pretty quickly. So I feel good about their chances. In fact, I think they could be the number 1 wild card. I don't think they're going to catch Atlanta. That, to me, that's a pipe dream. But I think they could absolutely be the number 1 wild card team. So I like where the Phillies are at. As far as the Sixers, I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. I don't understand for the life of me why Montrezl Harrell is on this roster. It feels to me like they're trying to coax James Harden into coming back, which I think is a mistake. If he's got 1 foot out the door, you're not going to get the best from him. There are a lot of people, respected pundits around the NBA, who believe that Daryl Morey's got a trick up his sleeve. And I hope that's the case. I hope he's got something where we're all going to sit back and say, oh my God, I didn't see that coming, which is very possible. But if they try to run this thing back, it's going to be a big mistake. They'll be a decent enough team in the regular season, but there is no chance that this team will advance past the second round again. They now have Embiid, Bamba, Harrell, and Paul Reed all at the 5 spot. Why? I don't know. I don't get it. It's been kind of a puzzling offseason thus far for the Sixers for me. As far as the Flyers go, we know what this is going to be this year. It's going to be let the young kids play, weed out the ones who can't play. You could still see some trades made, but they've at least admitted that they kind of hit rock bottom and they got to fix this thing. So that's kind of where they're at. Look, certainly looking forward to next week. It's funny. Kevin Reilly brought up Rich Gannon, former Raider, NFL Player of the Year, Delaware, St. Joe's Prep in the Philly area. He's going to be our guest next week. NFL analyst as well. I do a lot of work with Kevin with Rich during the football season. So he's going to jump on with us and we'll walk through his unbelievable story. A guy who was in his mid to late 30s when he won NFL MVP. That doesn't happen very often. So Rich Gannon next week. I appreciate all of you for hanging. Hey, let's spread the word. Let's tell a friend about the Rob Ellis Show here on A2D Radio Network. I want to thank my man Ralph, producer of the program, and I'll see you guys next week. Appreciate it.